HIPPE uses the most up-to-date information on budgeting concepts, financial education, and credit information. We are educated professionals that bring the very best practices from experts in their fields for free as community charity.
HIPPE is not responsible or otherwise liable for any advice, guidance, or instruction that creates a negative outcome. Recommendations accepted by individuals are at the control and execution of those individuals, including all outcomes therein.
Aloha, and welcome to HIPPE's Financial 101 Training and Budgeting Workshop.
I'm Joni.
I'm Rick.
Let's get started.
In today's series, we will be discussing debt management, and most importantly, managing your debt before your debt manages you. We're going to be covering several elements. The first one will be debt categories, then debt types, then good debt versus bad debt, and finally, discussing why do we care?
I want you to ask yourself, do you want to be debt-free? Also, second question, do you think you're managing your debt well? If you answered yes to these questions, then this is for you to watch.
Absolutely. Yes, we are here to change your life. Let's get things straight here, real fast, right up front. There is a difference between a credit card and a debit card. When we use that credit card, again, that's a line of account that we get to draw free money from and then pay back to a bank, an institution, a credit union, and it's going to be a fraction of what we spent with interest added to it. With the debit card, of course, we're charging that directly from our balance in our checking account. We have to make sure we're making a distinct difference between the two. We have to change our mentality, understanding that when we slide that credit card, it's not free money. And it's going to feel invigorating that we can slide a card and borrow money and buy all kinds of things. But you got to remember, we have to use this thing as a tool. We have to use this thing as a weapon, either for good or bad. And if it's used in a bad purpose, it will affect you in the long term. Next thing is breaking down the types of expenses. So, Joni, when we start talking about living expenses, what's our biggest concerns with living expenses?
Sometimes people overspend on their living expenses. There's food, there's gas. Those are some Netflix.
Yep. How many people do we know that have like every service possible out there? Every service that you can watch something on your phone, thousands of channels. Do you really need all those channels? These are the living expenses. In some cases, it's your quality of life like we're talking about, right, Joni?
Right, absolutely.
And
quality of life is important, though.
Yes. Well, we can get into that topic about quality of life here in a bit. But most importantly, we have to make sure that we're doing this in the most economic means because, again, the amount of money you're putting in, it's got to go somewhere. And the least amount of places it's going will keep it with you. The next one is the housing expense. Now, that's kind of in our own territory about making sure that people can afford what it is they're actually about to spend for a house, whether it's rent or buying anything, right, Joni?
Correct. Typical housing expenses is paying rent to your landlord or property management company, or then there's your mortgage that puts the roof over your head as well.
Yes, and everything, the association fees, the maintenance fees, the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, all these things when you become a homeowner, these are all considered housing expense. And you need to make sure that you are living within your means and not living house rich, cash poor. The last topic is consumer debt. We're going to spend a weight of this discussion on consumer debt. We're going to break it down into several categories. Let's start real quick by breaking down secure debt and unsecured debt. Now, secure debt is anything that you've had to finance in order to get something, usually a tangible item, right? Like a car or a home, anything that can be taken from you if you don't make your payment.
Correct. They use collateral, and the collateral is something that you can actually physically touch.
Yes, absolutely. So the next thing is unsecured debt. Now, just because it's not secured against anything doesn't mean you can live thinking that you can just skate away and never pay it. I'm telling you, everything catches up to you. So when we talk about debt management, we have to make sure we're paying back what we owe, because if we don't, it's now affecting our credit. It's now affecting every other thing that our life depends on credit for. So that's the difference between secure debt and unsecured debt. Let's get into the main topics of debt concerns that we have. And those three topics first start with revolving debt. Now, as we just broke down about credit cards, about consumer debt, revolving debt is the biggest monster. It's the biggest, ugliest monster in the room that can change at all times. We can have a well-controlled amount of credit card debt, which is revolving, and manage it properly, pay it off every month from what we spend, maybe even take a perk every now and then, right, Joni?
Correct. So those are typically, revolving debts typically are the department store credit cards as well as the typical Visa, MasterCard, American Express credit cards.
Yes, absolutely. And if we're not managing it, it's going to turn right around and manage us. Next thing we know, we blink a couple times and you have racked up a bill to the top of that credit limit. And now somehow you have to manage that. The next topic is installments. Now, when we talk about installments, we're talking really just like we said, that secure debt, that home, something that's structured, planned, and will remain on a term until something changes in that term. When we look at that, that is how we can plan everything else around that installment loan, because those things are going to be rigid and solid. Everything else is maneuverable around that. The last thing is student loans. Joni, where do we start with student loans?
Gosh, student loans. So people have so many student loans in the nation, and that is actually one of the biggest problems.
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of government programs out there, state programs, that will allow you to forego having your entire student loan, having it removed. And in some cases, it will actually defer your payments for a while. Yeah.
And read the fine print.
Yes, read the fine print, because just to get to that golden ring 10 years from now, if you're deferring it over and over again, or if you're making even the smallest minimum payment, things will rack up. Interest will continue to grow. It's a fine line to walk to use these programs. So you have to make sure you're doing whatever those requirements are and you don't give up on it, or else you're back to square one. Now, I'll be the biggest proponent for you to say, pay off your student loans. Do not let it defer. Even if you're reading the fine print and even when they're allowing you not to be charged interest, you need to get rid of this. This is the scariest thing that can come back and bite you as it gets bigger and bigger over time, whenever it's time to turn on interest. We know a doctor, $400,000 in student loan debt after 20 years. $400,000. His student loan started well below that, but interest over time allowed it to get out of control. Somehow, he needs an exit strategy. This is where we have to make sure we're managing our debt. Now, let's get into the topic of good debt. There's many resources out there that tell us all debt's bad. And we know many people that will instantly go, all debt's bad. Everything's bad. Okay, let's talk about that. There's some people out there that have the luxury and have the ability to never need credit and can buy everything cash, cars, houses. We can probably count as many people as we know on one hand that could probably live like that, right, Joni?
Maybe one.
Right? And then there's everybody else. That's all of us. That majority. That we have to use some kind of financing to get where we're going. Or if we're trying to increase our net worth over time, we have to somehow spend money to make money. So when we look at the definition of good debt allows you to manage your finances more effectively, leverage your wealth, and buy things that you can handle. And in some cases, some of those things you're handling is emergencies. So Joni's a big proponent for making sure that we don't have to use credit for emergencies.
Right. Make sure you have that rainy day fund. You never know when that unexpected event that's going to happen. And you know what? It's going to hit you in the gut, and it's usually in your pocketbook. So have money set aside for that rainy day fund of the just in case. Very important.
Absolutely. Now, when we start talking about things that are good, how about we look at and analyze trying to buy something in order to secure future wealth? Let's give the example of the interview. If we're about to try to reach for that next rung on the ladder and try to get up there, and there's a job interview coming up, and the only means we have at this point is getting that suit on credit, getting that dress on credit, whatever it is you have to do to look sharp, to get that promotion, or to get that job in some cases. That might be the promotion, is just getting into that job that's going to earn you more money. Is it prudent to use debt for that? The answer is yes, but it has to be done in economic means, and it needs to be a short-term burst in order for a long-term benefit, okay? It has to be short effort to obtain a longer effort in the goal. So we have to really consider balancing this off. And what else do you have to say about that topic, Joni?
Especially with that type of thing, with buying something to better yourself, be frugal about it and be careful about it. If you're aware of what you're spending and you can cover it, great. But if you can't, then you're gonna have to pick it up somewhere, and it will affect your budget eventually.
So let's air out this next topic. Some people need to buy specific things to make themselves emotionally, spiritually, in some way, and in some cases physically, well. So I love bringing up the topic of the golfer. That's my topic. I'm not a golfer, and you hear about people buying these expensive golf clubs, but you know what? If that increases their emotional, any type of stress level, cures that, maybe the walking helps cardio for them, and they're a better person because of it, can they consider that new golf club that they bought on credit, can they consider that a good debt? I will still say no. But for them and their future quality of life, we could consider that a good debt, but he or she better have a plan to pay that off.
You see, I think about the cyclist, and I used to cycle, and I have friends that have bought some beautiful carbon fiber bikes that are, upwards of $5,000-$10,000. And that's a lot of money. But if they feel like it's going to help them with cycling and it's going to make them go out and use it, and they can afford it, and the key word is they can afford it, then great. Go ahead and do it.
Absolutely. Bottom line is there needs to be some kind of target. And if you don't have a target and you're spending freely, that's considered bad debt and you need to recheck yourself. A mortgage is the most secure and best form of good debt. And why do we say that, Joni?
Because your mortgage will help you build appreciation and equity gain.
Not only that, but if you don't know, you can go out and get a mortgage right now for $1 million. And guess what? That is now going to increase your credit score. We call it the credit mix, and you'll see that in our credit management course.
Not only will it increase your credit score, it'll also build your net worth.
Absolutely, it'll build your net worth. Then you can then begin harnessing your own expenses. You can begin tightening down on spending that debt using your own equity to finance you, become your own bank. Of course, you're going to still need a bank, but you can begin financing yourself. And in some cases, now you're financing yourself for the next investment, not just to pay debt.
So what that's called is a home equity line of credit, simply put.
Yeah, home equity line of credit. It's a
and
great
the collateral
product.
is your home, and you get to draw on that equity for yourself.
Absolutely. Now, let's air out the bad debt. What do we consider bad debt? Let's talk the definition real quick. Anything that decreases value the minute you buy it. Now, before Joni gets into a lot of examples, because we got tons, my form I always like to talk about is that new car. Now, I've been guilty of it and I still will be. If I can afford it and I can buy a new car, I like my toys, I like my bells and whistles. I know that when I drive it off the lot, if I'm financing it, it's a bad debt as soon as I buy it and I'm rolling it off the lot, I'm losing value instantly. We have to recognize that. We need to air that out and stick it out there and make sure we see it. What other forms of bad debt are out there?
Oh gosh, there's retail therapy that a lot of people like to do, which they just shop. And that shopping is shoes, purses, clothes, jewelry, all types of things. If you can afford it, great. If you can pay cash for it, even better. However, if that's slid on a credit card, be careful because that adds up pretty quickly. And that could actually be your bad debt.
I promise you, you cannot see those rims while you're driving that car. I'm telling you, I've tried looking in the windows of, big buildings when I'm driving by, when I'm trying to watch the road. You can't see it, guys and gals. There's no way that you can see all these things that you're spending all this money on. So why do you have it? I got it. If it increases the feeling that you have, right? Increases some endorphins out there or something, great, right? But let's get real. Can you afford it? Are you going to be able to pay that down? And if I were to count up every penny that you spent on interest after you're done paying it off, how good do those rims feel now, right? Do you feel like it was worth all that interest? Or maybe you did it the old-fashioned way and just save up for it.
Hey, delayed gratification is always a good thing.
Now let's get into the needs, okay? We just talked about wants. Let's get into needs. We need sometimes to go buy groceries. Sometimes we're not making that much money, or maybe that check doesn't come. Maybe that job that we're trying to get, that side gig didn't happen, and that extra cash that we were expecting didn't come in. Now, how are we going to balance ourselves out? So we have to consider debt very carefully. That is a tool for good, okay? Now, if we can use these tools and be very careful with them, yes, it's considered bad debt, but if it's putting food in your belly and it's giving your kids whatever it is that they needed, and it's allowing everybody to still survive or live in some cases, we have to take that very carefully. Yes, it's bad debt. We're going to show that it's bad debt, but you must develop that plan to kill it as soon as possible, to eliminate it from the equation. We don't want to live in a situation of bad debt all the time, but at the same time, we need to care for our family. What's some other situations, some really hard stuff, hardships that we've gone under, We know some people that right now are balancing out bad debt versus, maybe they can crunch down and tackle bad debt by moving in together. We know several circumstances like this where they're just trying to eliminate their monthly obligations on their budget in order to survive better, maybe even tackle some of this bad debt or stop from making bad debt. What else do we have?
So Rick, what's the golden rule?
Okay, the golden rule. We need to make sure that we are using our debt very carefully. If the debt brings positive effects, then we can consider it reasonably good as long as it's purchased by economic means or by moderation. Now, what does that all mean? Well, let's get into the subject of all these things out there that we're buying every day that we need. Let's start with a phone. I'm the first one that'll tell you I'll never buy a brand new phone. I'll buy a brand new car. I won't buy a brand new phone. Why do it? These phones change so much over time. You're going to buy the brand new thing right now, and in 1 year, the next model comes out. How about I go buy a refurbished phone that's two series behind, and I'm going to spend a fraction of the cost compared to that new phone? That's me.
That's great. And and you're aware of what you need, but there are people out there that do need that brand new phone because they use it for work. They might need that super sharp, crisp picture from the camera that they need to take photos of for work. And if that is, then so be it.
Now let's get into the topic of something super name brand and something that might just be lower cost but good in performance, all because of marketing dollars. A MacBook, right? Look at how expensive those things are. The top of the line books that you find everywhere, there's different laptops, PCs, everything you're talking about. And then you got those off brands like Lenovo or Asus.
Well, if you think about Costco and the Kirkland brand, there's diapers, what else is there? There's diapers, there's, I would say tires, but then they don't have tires.
There's all kinds of stuff out there.
All types
right?
of things out there.
There's tons of brands.
Baby
Walmart,
wipes, shampoo, all that.
Walmart Great Value brand. If you've never researched it, believe it or not, some market items out there that are actually store brand are developed in R&D to be better in some cases than some of the name brand stuff, okay? So when you see that store brand, it's not necessarily worse because it just happens to be a store brand. You're just not paying the marketing dollars. And I love to bring up Tony the Tiger, okay? You're going to be paying for Tony the Tiger to be drawn, to kick around the soccer ball with the Olympian, right? That's what you're paying for. You ain't paying for a better flake or better sugar on that flake, right? Or lesser calories that are going into it.
You're paying for him to say you're great.
Right? You're paying for him to say your money is great. And they're going to take that money, and they're going to put it in their pocket, and you just paid for that, okay? So watch that commercial over and over again while you're eating that Tony the Tiger. You're going to need to, okay? To digest how much money you're spending on that product. Now let's get into why we care about this now. Why do we care about managing our debt? Why do we care about its effect on your credit? We're going to break down for you a very key topic when it comes to your future financial wealth of owning a home. And we have to build from the foundation. The foundation comes by managing your debt to income ratio. Now, I'm going to show you this graphic here. And on this graphic, this is how we figure out your fraction for the debt to income ratio. We actually have an actual fraction here, going back to old school, of housing expense, which we explained, consumer debt over your income. So that housing expense is actually how much you're going to spend for that home. That is going to determine how much home you can buy. When we take that number, we add it to your consumer debt, which is the minimum monthly payments. Everything is based on monthly amounts. When we add that together and we divide it over income, that's going to give us a percentage. And that percentage is what lenders use to judge if you can afford that home or not. And guess what? If the debt to income ratio is too high, you can't afford it. You need to shop lower, okay? These are things that we have to analyze and make sure we're prepared for. And if you talk to the right people, they will help prepare you. That housing expense of how much home that it's going to cost for you to live in it monthly, and the consumer debt, the minimum payments you're spending every month on that debt, those 5 credit cards that you put high balances on, paying a whole bunch of interest, you're going to divide that over the income that you make, and we have to determine, can you afford that? And are you going to be able to continue making these payments? And if this is a home purchase, we need to make sure that you can afford this, and it's all to build your future financial wealth. Bottom line, we want you to walk away from this course knowing that if you don't manage your debt, it's going to affect you in other ways. It's going to stop you from in the future buying that house, creating that wealth, giving your family a home to live in, growing that equity. It's going to stop you from having a good credit score, getting that job, things that you need in order to secure your future finances. Joni, in closing, what else do you have?
Basically, manage your debt. Otherwise, your debt is going to manage you.
True fact. Okay, everybody. Thank you for joining our class today. Please check out our survey. Go online to Facebook or Instagram, hyppe.education, HIPPE.education, or
Please check out our website at www.hype-education.org. Also, we're on YouTube. Search Hype Podcast. Please like and subscribe. I'm sure you'll enjoy some of those videos that we have there too.
absolutely. And we hope that you find us on Olelo. Thank you, Olelo, for sponsoring us and having us here. And you'll find us on Facebook, Instagram, all the social media platforms, and you'll see what we're doing for the local community.
Thank you.
Take care.